All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Task Force meeting here this last week in October. So glad you all could be with us this morning. Be sure to silence your cell phones. Remember to turn on your mics when you speak. And does anybody have any guests in the room they'd like to introduce? All right, seeing none. Just one announcement before we get started. We're going to ask for any task force members to send in any recommendations for us to look at by this Friday, November 1st. We'll do our best to then turn those around and send them back out to the committee so we can discuss them at the November meeting as a group. So if you'll just get that together before November 1st, Senator Thomas.
Madam Chair, I'm glad you raised this point because I was going to ask you this at some point during the committee anyway, so let me address that now. So is the process going to be that we have to submit our written recommendations first, but we then are going to have an oral meeting of all the members to discuss what those recommendations are going to be? Because I know, speaking just for myself, I've been to every artificial intelligence task force meeting we've had. I can't speak for Representative Stevenson, but I'm sure she would like to have some input as well. So I just want to make sure that at least those of us who are on the Democratic side of the ledger will have a chance to discuss what we think are key recommendations and key points going forward regarding artificial intelligence in this state and in this country.
Yes, sir. My intent would be, our intent would be to have all the recommendations in writing to staff by Friday the 1st. We'll turn them back around to all members of the task force. I think we have one agenda item on the November meeting for discussion for a hearing, if you will, and then we'll spend most of the meeting on November 13th as a discussion of those recommendations and findings. So you will have input at that meeting.
Okay. Well, Madam Chair, let me say, and obviously it's your and Representative Bray's committee. That's going to be problematic for me because I promised my wife that I would go on vacation with her beginning November 13th. We're going to Panama. If she gave me this time, these last 2 months to work on campaign. So I won't be here on November 13th. I'm going to honor my commitment with my wife and be out of town.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Panama sounds like a great time. And I'm not sure what I can do about that, except that that's the time frame that we've set to have that discussion. And I would certainly welcome your feedback before that meeting, one from your colleagues if they wish to share on your behalf, and two directly to me. Representative Miles.
Thank you, Chairman. Typically in the past, Senator, this is the normal process of the task force to submit information, and we gather everything from the meetings and things like that, and staff obviously has been working on it this entire time throughout this, Senator. So hopefully if you have any suggestions, I'm sure we'll have that document emailed to us as an agenda item prior to that. So if there's anything that any of us need to add, if we're unable to be here for whatever reason, that we could be there. So apparently the senator's not listening, so I'll quit talking. Thank you. Oh, okay.
That we normally follow through the process, and that our recommendations will be considered. If there's something I want to consider, I can do so, prior to that meeting. Isn't that what you said?
Yes,
So
and
I was listening.
okay, and that document is usually the one that is submitted to the LRC at the end of it. Is the normal process of what task force, and that's usually what the information comes from. And many times, a lot of times, legislation either comes from that or you see things that show up in the budget. So that's how the task force have worked well in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I forgot to do one thing. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Meredith. Present. Senator Smith. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Here. Senator Williams. Representative Blanton. Here. Representative Lewis. Representative Miles. Here. Representative Stevenson. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Present. Representative Bray.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum, so I'd ask for an approval of the minutes from the October 8th meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion passes. This morning / early afternoon, we have with us three fantastic presenters. We're going to start with Will Schroeder, former state senator and phenomenal senior counsel to our Attorney General, Mr. Coleman. If you'll introduce yourself for the record, and you may start your presentation.
Well, good morning. Thank you for that introduction. Co-chairs, Bledsoe, Bray, thank you for the invite. Members of the committee, always good to see you again. As mentioned, Will Schroeder, senior counsel for Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman. We appreciate the invite today. And with that, madam, I'll just take it away. Okay. The first time I became aware of artificial intelligence related to this role was actually before our constitutional officers got sworn in. You'll recall back in the fall of 2023, there was a high school in New Jersey where a number of females reported that their classmates had taken images out of the yearbook and imposed those images on adult sexually explicit pictures. Obviously, this caused great discomfort for these female students. When looking into it at the time in New Jersey, this was not against the law. So this made national news. And unfortunately, it wasn't just related to one single incident in New Jersey. This was started happening across the United States and even into Canada. And in Kentucky, you may recall, it hit pretty close to home in the Bluegrass State for us when a teacher in Louisville did that with images of his students. He put them on adults. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children cyber tip line last year received about 4,700 reports of content involving AI technology. This is a small fraction of the more than 36 million total reports of suspected child sexual exploitation, but the numbers are increasing. In addition to children, a number of states are looking at and considering updating their revenge porn laws to include AI-altered sexual photos of videos in adults. In 2023, a report found that 95,000 deepfake or AI-generated videos online, and of those, 99% were pornographic videos of women. This number, 95,000, was up 550% from 2019. And this really just shows how the technology is making it more easy just to create these images and videos. The issue made international headlines in January when fabricated sexually explicit images of Taylor Swift were created by a free AI generator that went viral, prompting lawmakers in several states to introduce legislation to combat deepfake porn, including Missouri's Taylor Swift Act. Part of the issue with the Taylor Swift incident was just the speed at which the images were shared. One image on X, formerly known as Twitter, was viewed 47 million times before the platform could suspend the account. Images continued to spread despite efforts from social media companies to remove them. In a recent poll, 73% of survey participants said that they would want to be able to report to authorities if someone close to them became a victim of deepfake porn. As you can imagine, this is a bipartisan issue. Recently, a bipartisan coalition of 54 state and territorial attorney generals urged Congress to study how artificial intelligence can and is being used to exploit children through child sexual abuse material, CSAM. The attorney generals asked Congress to propose legislation that would protect children from those abuses. The National Association of Attorney Generals sent a letter to congressional leadership on behalf of the coalition. So first, let's look at what you've done. Last session, the General Assembly passed House Bill 207, Representative Stephanie Dietz's bill related to CSAM, child sexual abuse material. And the good news is that by adding computer-generated images to the definition, you were ahead of many states. I recently attended a National Association of Attorney Generals conference, and a number in the focus of that conference was protecting kids. And so in one of the aspects of that, we talked about many things: drugs, alcohol, social media, health in general, but one of the specific areas was AI and the future of AI and what that looks like with kids. And a number of the speakers stress one of the first and easiest things states could do is to alter that definition of CSAM. And so by doing that, again, you're ahead of the time. And as mentioned, again, in addition to CSAM, a number of states are updating their revenge porn laws to include AI-altered sexual photos and videos of adults. Once again, Kentucky was ahead of the pack here as well by adding computer-generated image to the definition of private erotic matter. Any AI-created or altered pictures of individuals should be covered. I should say sexually explicit pictures under KRS 531.120. Distribution of sexually explicit images without consent. Other areas of focus, sticking with the topic of protecting children. In addition to CSAM, one of the things that came up at this conference that I really hadn't considered is age verification for websites that have chatbots. So some of these chatbots are sexual in nature, they're supposed to be romantic in nature, and at the time it seemed, I don't want to say far-fetched, but just we really hadn't considered that. We hadn't considered age verification, why that would even be needed on a chatbot. But tragically, just recently in Florida, a teen committed suicide after being in an emotional relationship with a chatbot that encouraged him to come home to it. So, we often hear about the concerns. We hear about the CSAM. We hear about this incident in Florida. But there's some positives, too, that we've seen out of AI and what AI is doing. One area with law enforcement is improving policing and responses to incidents. So reviewing hundreds of hours of body cam footage and helping police departments improve how officers respond to incidents. One police department in California stated that using such tools resulted in the use of force being decreased by 36%. Now, obviously, this is an area where, for people to sit down and review all the hours of body cam footage is almost impossible. But having AI go through it, they're able to pinpoint things that reoccur and help in their training. So sticking, however, with the theme of protecting children, I want to focus on a company that's doing some exciting work, and the company is called Thorn. According to Thorn's website, new sexual abuse material, child sexual abuse material is being uploaded online platforms daily. We know that, and unfortunately, thousands of images are. Unfortunately, some platforms do not proactively search for CSAM, relying instead on user reports. Others that do detect CSAM can only identify previously known material. Thorn's classifiers stand out by detecting previously unidentified CSAM, as well as text-based exploitation such as grooming, sextortion, and other forms of child sexual harm. Given the massive volume of CSAM messages, needing to review the demand would be a demand on human moderators far beyond what is feasible. This is where advanced tools like classifiers come into play. Classifiers are machine learning algorithms that categorize data automatically. For instance, email filters use classifiers trained to sort spam from regular emails, improving over time through user feedback. This principle applies here as well. Thorn's classifiers, by learning from past data, can label new material and predict its likelihood of being CSAM. Thorn's technology detected 3.8 million CSAM files and flagged 1.5 million files as potential CSAM last year. Again, manually identifying new CSAM and harmful conversations related to child exploitation is a labor-intensive process, often reliant on human reviewers or user reports. Without automated classifiers, hundreds of people would be needed to process the volume of data for Thorn's, but Thorn's tools can handle this autonomously. Since new CSAM often reflects active abuse, the conversation may signal exploitation. The ability to identify these promptly is crucial to protecting children. Thorne's tools are currently utilized by the platform Flickr. You might recognize Flickr. It's a video and photo sharing platform. And their trust and safety manager noted, we don't have millions of bodies to throw at this problem, so having the right tool isn't really important to us. And one recent success story involved the rescue of a missing child after law enforcement identified over 2,000 previously unknown CSAM images using this data. So while artificial intelligence has raised concerns in various fields, including law enforcement and child protection, it is also a powerful solution. It also can be a powerful solution in the fight against child exploitation. In conclusion to the question, is AI technology dangerous or beneficial? The answer is the same answer that good attorneys give clients every day. It depends. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schroeder, for your presentation and your willingness to come talk with us. I think I'll start out with just the first question, which is this tension between the freedom to innovate, freedom of expression, and the responsibility to regulate and responsibility to protect. And that's a tension, I think, in this committee on almost every issue we've tried to balance. And so the question would be, do you feel like with current KRS, you have the tools in which you as a department, you as the Attorney General's office, to handle what we're dealing with today? And if not, do you have any recommendations on what we need to be looking at in the future?
Thank you for that question. I think, focused on CSAM because of the changes with Representative Dietz's bill, I do think we're, as mentioned, in a much better state than we were a year ago, and we are in a much better position than many of our sister states or states across the U.S. In other areas, I think as you guys are, as the committee or task force is learning, it's ever evolving, ever changing, and we certainly have our door open, and we know that you guys are willing to listen to us as well as we continue to come across new areas of expertise. Ultimately, you guys are the policymakers. So in this seat, I guess now, this new chair I have, it can be a little bit easier because you have, the difficult decision of balancing that, new innovative technologies with concerns. As a result, as it relates to CSAM, I can say that even the federal courts, at one time there was First Amendment questions, and those convictions have been upheld, saying, you don't have a First Amendment right, even if it's an altered image.
Great, thank you. All right, next we're going to start with Representative Blanton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mr. Schroeder, for your presentation. We've heard testimony early on in the task force from some of the top technology companies in the country, in the world, quite frankly. And apparently there doesn't exist, at least as of the time of their testimony, any type of technology to detect an AI-generated, say, video or audio. There's no markings or color markings that they can distinguish whether something is a fake or not sometimes, which is very concerning, and not just in child exploitation, but in adults as well, whether it be of a sexual nature or even painting a negative light on someone that could do irreparable harm to that individual, both financially and their reputation. So I guess my question to you is, realizing that, one, how do we prove that something is to protect the innocent? And two, do we need to look at some type of statute to allow for the bad actors? Because don't get me wrong, it's like you said, it depends. I think AI has a lot of great uses, but I also know there's bad people that will use it inappropriately. Do we need to look at some type of maybe criminal statutes dealing with these people that's making these fake videos, fake audios, fake whatever that is causing harm to individuals' thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good question as it relates to other areas like reputation and business reputation. As it relates to CSAM and revenge porn, you've done that in the sense It used to be you actually had to have an identifiable victim, but now with the way that you guys have inserted and changed the definition of computer alterated image, you don't have to have an identifiable victim, which makes it a lot better. And so that falls under the current KRS punishments for that, and then as well as the revenge porn statute. So once the revenge porn statute was updated, I believe it's a Class A misdemeanor the first time it happens, and would be a Class D felony the second time someone shares one of those images. In other areas, again, I would have to go back and look, but I think you raised a really good point about just reputation when we're not talking about sexually explicit, when you're just talking about Representative Blanton said X and it was something you never said, that's going to harm you or your business. It's definitely an area to look at.
Quick follow-up. So, and maybe it's more of a comment than a question, but not just in saying something. I mean, my understanding of AI-generated videos, they could literally create a video of Will Schroeder committing a crime that he actually didn't commit. So not only could it cause harm to someone, I have a fear that we're going to end up convicting people that's innocent over videos that exist that we can't prove is fake or not fake, and it comes down to their word over the video.
Yeah, to the first part of your statement, I think you're right. As technology is evolving, it's getting more and more realistic. I'm sure the committee's seen the deep fake Tom Cruise videos that you can't tell that's not Tom Cruise. It looks just like Tom Cruise, and it looks just like one of the many action films Tom Cruise is in. So I think that's a good point. As far as the concern of a conviction, you would still have the jury system process and a chance to have defense counsel explain why it's not a real incident, and the normal proceedings that you're used to seeing as an officer would still exist, but it does it does cause concern.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think you raise a very good point that we all share the concern about. Senator Williams.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. You mentioned age verification, and we had a success, the term last session, although it's still up before the federal court on removing porn sites due to age verification. But you mentioned it, age verification might be used on other kinds of sites other than porn sites might be needed. So is there's something we need to do to look at extending age verification to some other areas? Just like everybody goes to grocery stores, but only if you buy beer do you have to provide, or some alcohol or cigarettes, age verification.
Yeah, Senator Williams, thanks for that follow-up. The context that it came up at the conference was specifically for minors with these chatbots that can sometimes be, they're pushed out there as romantic or sexual in nature. So if your company is pushing out a romantic chatbot, again, it's something that 2 months ago I would have scratched my head and not known what you were even talking about, especially to think that minors might be interested in that. But again, as tragically seen in Florida, it is a real thing, and so I do think that's a policy area that you could consider.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Co-Chair Bray.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. So last session, as you've discussed in your testimony, changed the definition for sexually explicit content with minors to cover AI-generated images or videos or whatever. Within the criminal code, do you think, and you won't probably know the answer today because obviously the criminal code is huge, and I doubt you know it all by heart. But within the criminal code, are there areas to where there might need to be another definition change, like let's say mail fraud or theft by deception or just any of these other crimes to cover AI generated images or anything like that, because the last thing, as a task force, we're charged with making recommendations. The last thing we want to have happen is you all don't have a tool to prosecute a crime, or we have 1,000 bills filed for every little crime to make sure something needs to be changed. So maybe it's not as much a question as just kind of a charge. If you all could just have somebody look at that and see if, like, nope, we're all good, we can prosecute what crime as we see it, or maybe we need to pay some attention in this area here.
Co-Chair Bray, yeah, certainly. First of all, appreciate the realistic expectations. You're right. I did not have the KRS memorized. And in this world, it's kind of almost hard to imagine the need to do that these days, it seems like, with all the technology we're discussing here. But certainly as incidents come up, and I think part of the difficulty for you and for us is sometimes our feedback we don't necessarily have until we hear from a jury. I say we collectively as prosecutors across the state. Even when looking at the revenge porn and seeing how many states were working on that, and then going back and looking at the way it was done, it's just interesting because you never know how a jury's gonna react to certain things. But certainly, as I think you bring up great points with mail fraud and other forms of fraud and identification thefts. A lot of areas that we could go back and continue to look, and certainly we'll be in contact.
All right, thank you. That's the last question, but I'll put a exclamation point on the last item. And we've talked about this before. No sense in writing new KRS if we can expand current KRS to cover certain things, especially with years and years of history and things that have been tried over time. It just makes more sense to be thoughtful in this ever-changing world, as we say, not to just create new legislation that actually doesn't help, but might actually hinder the process. So as you are meeting with other states and are also looking at model legislation where it needs to be, that you keep us updated from what you're hearing, as well as we do the same, and try to make sure that we're managing that line between freedom and responsibility well, and make sure, as Co-Chair Bray said, you have the tools that you need to protect Kentuckians as we move forward. So appreciate your testimony.
Absolutely.
And so your willingness to have the dialogue.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is with Amazon, and we're fortunate today to have John Estes with us. He is our regional policy lead for Amazon to discuss some of the logistical issues and transportation issues that Amazon is doing. So introduce yourself for the record, and then you may have the floor.
Green light. There it is. Good morning. I got the technology to work at a technology hearing. I'm pretty proud of myself so far. John Estes, head of state and local government here in Kentucky for Amazon. Excited to talk to you today. Very, very privileged to be here. Been following your task force's work. You all are doing an excellent job at exploring all the same questions that we're exploring as a company, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the artificial intelligence that we're using in Kentucky. So I'm going to turn on a slide deck real quick. I am. Elena and Christina will help me out, as they've been helping me over the past week. Again, prepare for a technology discussion and assisting me. Thanks, Christina. So our roots as a company in Kentucky run very deep. We opened our first operation in Kentucky 25 years ago, and we're only a 30-year-old company. So this summer we got to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our Campbellsville Fulfillment Center. This was our first operation in Kentucky. It also was one of the first fulfillment centers that Amazon ever opened east of the Mississippi, and it remains a key part of our operations network today. But it just so happens that for as long as we've been in Kentucky, we've been using artificial intelligence in our transportation and logistics operations. So for 25 years, Amazon has pioneered the use of machine learning models to power customer experiences. And from forecasting demand to robotics to routing, Amazon is using artificial intelligence in very practical ways to support safety and efficiency in all of our facilities and out on the road, all while ensuring our customers can get the products that they want faster than ever. And Amazon has a unique perspective on artificial intelligence because we are both a deployer and a developer of artificial intelligence, so we make it and we use it. While AI is already subject to a broad range of laws and regulations that protect against the many risks that are associated with AI, Amazon is supportive of targeted and reasonable regulation to ensure that organizations adopt governance-based safeguards where AI is being used in a high-risk way. At Amazon, we've invested in responsible development and deployment of AI across all of our businesses, and to date, we have developed over 70 internal external offerings and tools and services that use AI in some way, and we believe that we use AI in a responsible way. And all that's happening right here in Kentucky. So today, I want to talk about some of the key ways that we use artificial intelligence in Kentucky. We have 22,000 employees across 19 operations sites here in Kentucky, and they're all using artificial intelligence as we speak in some way, shape, or form. This includes our staff at our largest operations site anywhere in the world, which is here in Kentucky. It's our air hub up at the CVG Airport in northern Kentucky. So today I'm going to give you a few examples of how artificial intelligence helps Amazon safely fulfill millions of orders a week. We'll focus on these three general areas where we use AI in Kentucky. Those are robotics, forecasting, and transportation. Most of the specific examples that I'm going to give you are in use in Kentucky today, and I'll start with robotics. Almost all our Kentucky operations use robotics in some form. Robotics technology enables us to work smarter to operate efficiently and safely. And I really want to emphasize the word safety throughout this presentation. So in 2024 alone, we're investing $750 million in safety initiatives. We've invested billions of dollars in recent years in similar initiatives. A lot of those investments include AI. We have more than 9,000 safety professionals across our workforce, and through their work and improvements in AI and other efforts over the past 4 years, we've produced a 28% improvement in our recordable incident rate, which is any work-related injury. And we've also produced a 75% improvement in our lost time incident rate, which is any work-related injury where you have to take time off work. These are usually the more serious injuries that you'd see in the workplace. AI has been a part of that, right? So automating repetitive tasks, reducing heavy lifting, that helps improve safety for our employees and helps them focus on more strategic tasks. And in many cases, within Amazon, it's helped them upskill into new jobs. So our AI-powered robotics are a big part of that. Amazon's been designing and building robots for a decade now, and we've actually become the largest manufacturer of robotics in the world. And we are constantly researching, developing new ideas. The company's 30 years old now, but we're still very much a company of inventors and idea people, and a lot of that is centered around robotics in our fulfillment system. So over the past decade, we've deployed over 750,000 mobile robots across our operations. At the same time, we've added hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the world. And I think the most important thing to emphasize there is these new AI technologies in our operations have led to the creation of hundreds of new job categories within Amazon. These are things like robotics, flow control specialist, amnesty floor monitors, robotics reliability maintenance engineers. So we've not only invested in that technology, but we've also invested in upskilling our workforce to ensure they can grow their careers across new categories of jobs. So in these new roles that have been created as a result of these technologies, we employ tens of thousands of people in those roles alone. And it's a tangible demonstration of the positive impact that AI can have for a company's workforce and for its employees. So today, with all that in mind, 75% of our customer orders globally are delivered with the assistance of robotics working alongside our workforce. So I thought I would introduce you to some of the robots and let you get to know them. Again, many of these are in Kentucky. This is Robin. Robin is short for robotic induction. It's a robotic arm. Amazon built and designed Robin. So Robin is constantly learning and adapting. Robin's able to pick up almost any type of package and safely place it where it needs to go. Robin has a computer vision system that's trained using generative AI and synthetic data. And most robotic arms that you're familiar with, probably in a assembly line format, are script-based. They do the same thing over and over, right? Robin is a little different. Robin does not run on a script. Robin can identify and grab a variety of different packages, cardboard boxes, plastic packages, paper envelopes, you name it, and safely place it where it needs to go. So it doesn't do the same thing over and over. It's able to adapt, and that creates a lot of efficiencies and safety improvements. So we have more than 1,000 Robins across the world, have several here in Kentucky. Robin has helped fulfill billions of customer orders since being introduced a few years ago. Our next robot friend is Cardinal, sensing a little bird theme here. Kind of similar to Robin, Cardinal uses AI and computer vision to pick up one package that comes down a chute and kind of collects in a pile, and then it identifies the size of the package, and as you can see in the image, it places it in a cart to be transported somewhere else in our warehouse. And it uses an air suction function to pick up these packages. It reads the label, and then it precisely places it into the cart. So it's picking and packing through this robotic arm. Our newest robotic arm is Sparrow, and Sparrow's pretty cool because Sparrow picks up items before they get packaged. And as you can imagine, we have millions of different items that we sell on Amazon. So Sparrow uses AI to be able to handle almost any type of small item and put it in a tote so it can complete its journey to the customer. It's the first robotic system we have that picks up the individual items. Everything else we'd had to date would boxes only. So it's a pretty great advancement for our employees. Some of our Kentucky sites have one or two of these. Some of them have dozens, right? So the robotic arms have become a big part of our fulfillment network. I'm going to move to another category of robot, and these are our kind of mobile drive units. So Hercules and Titan I'll talk about. These robots bring customer items to our associates to be packaged. So they're drive units. They operate on a restricted robotics floor. They use artificial intelligence to find and bring large pods of items to our employees for packaging. So you can see Hercules carries items up to, or pods up to 1,250 pounds. Titan does a little heavier work, goes up to 2,500 pounds, but they bring large quantities of items to our associates to put into boxes. Our newest robot that does this function is called Proteus. And Proteus is pretty cool because it's our first fully autonomous mobile robot. That means it can navigate freely throughout a site. It uses sensors and artificial intelligence to avoid and detect objects that are in front of it, detect and avoid objects. And it works in conjunction with Cardinal, who you met earlier. So Proteus carries 800-pound carts around our fulfillment centers without being confined to a restricted robotics floor. It moves amongst our employees. It deploys artificial intelligence to navigate through Amazon facilities. It uses advanced safety, perception, and navigation technology, and it employs light and sound and movement to communicate with our employees. And if you kind of look in the background of this little animation here, you can see they're just moving about freely. They're not constricted to a pattern on a floor. And in the facilities where they're being used, there are employees walking amongst them. I'm going to skip over the next one, which is Sequoia, because we don't have it in Kentucky yet, but it's a pretty cool inventory management system. It helps us make sure we have enough space for all the products that we need to keep on hand. But those are just a few of the robots. We'll talk about a few more later, but I'm going to move on to forecasting. So when I say forecasting, I'm talking about forecasting inventory and operational needs. And we have a pretty fun system we use to help us do that at scale. So you see here, SCOT, SOC, it's Supply Chain Optimization Technology. We like to have fun names for everything, but artificial intelligence is enabling us to get our customers what they want as quickly as possible through artificial intelligence-powered forecasting. That's a big part of the process. So well before a customer clicks on an item to purchase it, SCOT is already working. SCOT helps forecast demand for more than 400 million products a day. And it uses deep learning to decide which products to stock and which quantities at which Amazon facilities. It also coordinates inventory shipments from the millions of sellers that we work with worldwide. So SCOT's actually, it's several AI systems working together And as they work in concert, they make countless decisions every day. It uses its data to provide predictive intelligence that tells us what inventory to buy, where to store it, how to pick it, how to ship it. It also forecasts demand, and very importantly, it coordinates warehouse operations. So it tells us the operational need that we have to fulfill the demand that customers are creating. We help make staffing and resource decisions using Scott in addition to managing our inventory with it. When we first introduced Scott a decade ago, we introduced it more than a decade ago, but a decade ago we introduced deep learning to Scott. When that technology was introduced, our forecasting accuracy jumped 15-fold in 2 years. And that was very key to Amazon being able to expand its product selection to an even bigger amount of goods and to get those goods to customers faster than ever. So Scott's been an important part of that, and it's in use in every facility in Kentucky in some way, shape, or form. So those are robots and forecasting. Those are kind of behind the scenes. The next area that I'll talk about is a lot more visible. You see it in all your districts every day. It's our transportation network. So these are our delivery vans and trucks that are getting the products where they need to go. And they're doing that with the assistance of artificial intelligence in many ways in our transportation operation. It all starts with route optimization for us. So route optimization is how we deliver packages to customers as safely and reliably and as quickly as possible. And at Amazon, different customers order different things every day. So route optimization is notoriously one of the most difficult problems that we need to solve. Our delivery partners don't drive the same route every day. They drive a new route every day based on what somebody orders. So there's a lot of thought that goes into what's the best way to get where I need to go. And artificial intelligence is helping us answer those questions. So Amazon uses more than 20 machine learning models that work in concert behind the scenes on route optimization alone. To deliver packages to customers, Amazon systems sift through 10 to the 88th power possible routing options. That's like a ton of zeros. It's more routing options than there are atoms in the universe. We could not do that without artificial intelligence. We do this at close to 400 delivery stations in the U.S. alone. Our delivery stations are our dedicated last mile sites. It's where our delivery partners pick up packages to take to the customer. You have 7 of those in Kentucky. You're about to have 8. So our AI-powered route optimization systems, they choose the safest, most reliable routes for our delivery partners to get packages to customers across the Commonwealth. And it's a critical part of keeping our delivery partners and the driving public safe by choosing the most economical route and for getting items to our customers as fast as they can. So to improve safety again for our delivery partners, route optimization uses large language models, uses graphic neural networks, uses machine learning systems, and all that helps improve the system's geographic knowledge. It helps generate more accurate maps. It helps make adjustments on the fly for traffic conditions or weather. It helps avoid dangerous intersections that might have construction or a wreck or what have you. So it helps us in real time just find the easiest way to get where we're going. And it doesn't just consider speed, it also considers safety. So that's a little bit of what we do before the route starts. While our delivery partner is out doing their work, delivering you your box to your doorstep, once the route optimization system's gotten them where they need to go, they've showed up at your house, they have to find your package in the back of the van, right? And it doesn't take a ton of time, but it takes a little time. So you see here in this little video, a delivery partner is looking for a package. He's reading addresses and names, saying, all right, where's the one I need to pull? Over the course of a route where he makes 100 stops, that time can add up, right? When you're serving hundreds of customers a day. So we developed a new technology called Vision-Assisted Package Retrieval, VAPOR for short. It's an AI-powered solution that means delivery partners no longer have to spend all this time organizing boxes and reading names and addresses. We have a computer vision model that does that for them now, and that's called VAPOR. So all the delivery partner has to do, and you'll see it in this video, is look for a green light that shines on the package in the back of the van. You can see it in the top right there. The green light shined on that. It's already read the customer's name and address. Delivery partner's on the way to the door with something fun. So again, VAPOR is a computer vision technology. We actually developed it for our fulfillment centers to read packages real quick, and we've since modified it for an in-van environment. And it's been really helpful. It uses specially designed automotive light projectors and cameras. You can see here the green light on that box, and it integrates with the van's delivery route navigation system. In our early testing of Vapor, we saw a 67% reduction in perceived physical and mental effort for delivery partners, and that resulted in more than 30 minutes saved per route, which multiplied across our network is a lot of time saved, and that's a lot of boxes getting a lot of places a lot faster. So back at the delivery station, we're doing some other cool things with AI. This isn't in Kentucky yet, but it's really cool, and I wanted to show it to you. This is automated vehicle inspection. What this does is make sure that our vans are safe before they go out on the road. So using this AI-based safety technology, an automated system can spot even the smallest anomaly in a delivery van using a camera-based system. It can see tire deformities, undercarriage wear, bent or warped body pieces, and it can spot these before they become safety problems on the road. And really what this does, it gives reassurance to our fleet managers and the mechanics that work for them that they've done everything they can to put a safe vehicle on the road. It's just another safety-focused use of artificial intelligence that we're pretty excited to be introducing across the network. So those are a couple things that we're using AI for on the road, but because we're in Kentucky, we got to talk about the sky a little bit too. As I mentioned previously, our largest operation in the world is here in Kentucky. It's the KCVG Amazon Air Hub. That sits on 600 acres up at the CVG Airport in northern Kentucky, and it opened in 2021. On average, there are about 36 planes a day that come in and out of that air hub on their way to other airports or other Amazon Air Hubs, and then they are packed to the brim with customer packages. But before those packages can get on a plane to fly, the air hub functions a lot like a mega sortation facility. It uses many of the robotics that I described earlier. It uses the forecasting that I described, and it helps sort packages to their destination and get it on the right plane. And when you operate at that scale, you need quite a bit of automated assistance to move the volume that we move. One really neat thing, here's a robin arm within the air hub. There are several of these in the air hub. Another neat thing about the KCVG Amazon Air Hub is the robotics floor there is the largest of its kind anywhere in the world. And it has more than 2,000 robots who work with our more than 2,000 associates and 48 robotic arms to move thousands of packages an hour throughout the site. Again, a major benefit of AI-driven technologies is safety. Here's a little picture of a lot of the mobile drive units moving a lot of boxes around one of the many floors of the facility. It looks like a traffic jam, but it's really not. This video will kind of show you what it looks like in motion, but again, taking on tasks that are strenuous or repetitive, these AI-powered solutions like you see here really help make the workplace safer for our employees. It helps make the roads safer for our delivery partners and the driving public, and it helps make operations that put boxes in planes safer as well. In a minute, you'll see on probably the next image on the right side of the screen, you'll see some of the robotic arms loading packages onto these mobile drive units there on the right-hand side of the screen. There's 48 of those that abut the robotics floor. So those systems are all working in concert. They're all powered by Scott, the forecasting system I discussed. We have robotic arms, we have mobile drive units, and we still have more than 2,000 employees who are working amongst all these cool pieces of technology. Actually, probably a few more than 2,000 because we just are in the middle of seasonal hiring up there right now. But those are just a few of the ways that we're using AI in Kentucky in our transportation and logistics operations. They're pretty neat. There's a lot more, and really the best way to learn about these is to come see them for yourself. So I know some of you have had the opportunity to see our facilities. If you haven't, we'd love to take you on a tour. We have lots of different types of facilities in Kentucky. And again, the easiest way to learn about it is come see it for yourself. So would love to host you. Would also love to have our 22,000 Kentucky employees tell you about a lot of the work they're doing in your districts and the community. That's a big priority for the company. We have a leadership principle that says success and scale bring broad responsibility. So would love to show you the neat AI, but just as equally important, would love for you to learn about what our associates are doing in your districts. That's the end of my prepared remarks. But thank you to this task force for your very thoughtful work. This is an exciting topic to talk about. There are some very serious questions to ask and answer. But this task force, you're talking about AI's potential as a force for good to tackle society's biggest problems, and that's a great conversation to have. And we're happy to have been invited to be part of it. Happy to take questions and answer any that I can.
Great. Thank you so much. What I really want to know is how I get the green light to sort laundry and socks. Because that's pretty amazing.
Somebody with 4 kids, that would change my life.
Right?
Yeah,
I just was thinking about the time
socks.
saved in my own house looking for the X item we needed today,
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So I'll start as a previous show with just 2 questions. One, I appreciate your talk about workforce, because when I see all those robots moving, you think the first thing is job loss.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, you've upscaled your workforce to create new jobs. What, if you can, in broad spectrum, what do those jobs entail? Are they backgrounds in tech? Are they backgrounds in certain level of higher education? Are they trade jobs? I'm just curious for what that looks like.
Great question, Senator. All of the above. So I mentioned that there are hundreds of new job categories that have been created within Amazon since we've started using artificial intelligence. Some of the tens of thousands of Amazon employees who fill those roles started out as an entry-level employee and upskilled their way into an advanced robotic technician type role. Some of them came from a trade school where they already had a credential that allowed them to work on any of the many systems we have. But we have placed a premium on upskilling within the company. I don't have an exact breakdown, but I'm in enough of our sites to know that there are tons of stories of folks who started out maybe as a seasonal worker or just as a frontline worker and took advantage of the upskilling and credentialing opportunities that we offer on site and are now working in a robotics capacity or an AI capacity or in a cloud computing capacity. Amazon, actually, we have a program called Career Choice where any of our operations employees can get college fully funded up front through working at Amazon. And so a lot of them have worked at Amazon, went and got a degree while working there, and have used that to get a job higher up, the corporate pecking order within Amazon. So we've seen all the above, and we're kind of unique because we're so large. But I do sometimes take meetings with legislators, and they'll ask, hey, what kind of college degree are you looking for? And we'll say, we're looking for a skill, right? And we can teach you the skill. If you have it through your degree, that's great. But we've had, to answer your question, we've seen every pathway into those jobs.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. And second, on the deep learning you mentioned, I think sometimes we wonder who's driving those decisions. So for instance, I have coffee with a friend. I mentioned how much I like her red sweater. Red sweaters are now all over my Facebook accounts or showing up my messages, and all of a sudden on Amazon, I'm buying a red sweater and it's there tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So how are you predicting, how is the deep learning working? If I'm asking this question well, how does that all work together?
Yeah, so it's all about the data, right? And I talked about Scott, the forecasting system. I'll give a really elementary, basic example. Scott makes much more sophisticated decisions than the ones I'm going to make, but if you were to go to a fulfillment center in Nashville or anywhere in Tennessee, what do you think you'd see that's different than Kentucky? You'd see orange. You wouldn't see as much blue and red. We have regional data, local data on what types of items customers like to buy. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest or New England or the Southwest, the inventory that's on hand at our sites is going to be based upon what Scott has found is in demand in those areas. And so that's at a macro level, right? It's very much geography based. Some of it will be, down to the part of town base. Like we're probably going to stock stuff that can serve central Lexington with more UK gear than we are something that's serving central Louisville. But then it gets down to the customer level. So at Amazon, customers are in total control of their data. They can let us keep their data and use it for internal purposes. We never sell our data or send it anywhere outside the company. Or they can have that data deleted. So if you were to delete your data, you probably wouldn't get the red shirts, right? That probably wouldn't show up. But some people like that. They like to have those products served to them. And, Kentucky passed a really strong data privacy law last year that really was pretty consistent with how we operate as a company. That bill said, don't sell my data, let me delete my data if I want to, and that's kind of how we operate. So it starts with the data, really.
You're exactly right. That's been one theme from the task force, is all about the data. All right, Senator Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I'm old enough back when we were doing manual search engine optimization for Google and then manual pricing on Amazon. And right now I'm presuming it's all AI. But you're probably unique. You've got a platform in which you have a lot of vendors, because it's not all your products and it's not all your pricing out there, and most of them are using AI. I'm just curious, how do you have issues managing all this AI with your AI, or are there integration issues on pricing? Because besides that sweater showing up, I think they know your price point at which you will buy it. Okay, so how much of that is Amazon, and how much of that is
it's a great
vendors?
question. And Amazon is unique because we have millions of sellers who use the platform, and they set the pricing. They can ask us for help and use some of those Amazon tools to say, here, what do you think the price should be? But that's a conversation we have with the sellers, right? And I'm glad that you asked that question, Senator, because Amazon, I think it was 25 years ago next year, Amazon allowed third-party sellers to begin selling on the platform, and that was a real signpost moment in the history of the company. So today, 60% of the products that are sold on Amazon are these third-party sellers. They're usually small and medium-sized businesses. You have more than 2,500 of those in Kentucky. So they have conversations with their Amazon rep about how they want to price, and it really is up to them. A lot of them opt to get our help with it because we have some pretty great data and pretty sophisticated ways to help them. Some of them say, this is the price I want, and we're going to roll with that. And so we have flexibility in how we do that. But the other part of your question is, I think my simple answer would be, yeah, it's complex. I mean, there's a lot of conversations that occur and a lot of tools that get used, and some of those jobs I mentioned, like those new jobs related to AI, are going to be associates and employees who are working on the systems that help us have those conversations and help us crunch that data for our sellers.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Senator Meredith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your presentation. Just a little bit overwhelming, to tell you the truth. Your slide where you said uses of AI in Amazon operations, you mentioned robotics, forecasting, transportation, but I'm assuming that's not a comprehensive list. There's got to be other areas that you're looking at. I'm surprised you didn't mention customer service. Is that a major component?
Absolutely. That's just a fraction of the uses of AI within Amazon. We do use it in the customer service environment. We've used a lot of routing AI-based technologies to just manage the volume of emails and calls that we get. That's pretty standard for a lot of companies with a large customer service operation like we have. But really, we're using it on Amazon.com. There are AI-powered shopping assistants that will help customers find all the products they might need for a particular use. So if you wanted, we have an assistant called Rufus. If you want to ask Rufus, hey, I'm going tailgating at UK next weekend, what do I need? It'll provide you with lots of options that are based on data that you might want to take tailgating, right? But I mentioned briefly at the top of my remarks that we're a developer and a deployer of artificial intelligence. So within Amazon, we use AI in every piece of our business, but we also build it for other businesses. So Amazon Web Services is the world's first and largest cloud provider, and it is providing hundreds of thousands of customers with unique AI solutions for their business needs. So we work in almost every sector through Amazon Web Services on all sorts of AI applications, and that's why we are kind of a unique group to talk to about AI, because we have our uses. I talked about 3 of them. There's 50 or 60 more, I mentioned we have 70 internal and external AI offerings that we use. So we can talk about how we use it, but we can also talk about how our AWS customers are using it in every economic sector.
Well, you mentioned also automated vehicle inspection. Maybe I'm making a broad assumption here, but you also see potential for automated robot inspection and a little bit further advancement, automated
like a
vehicle.
robot inspecting a car.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's any specific research and development going on within Amazon on that, but certainly a lot of folks in the robotics field are looking at ideas like that. I'll have to check and see if we have anything that's
Well, it just-
specific to Amazon.
To me,
on
it seems
that.
like a natural evolution, particularly for automated vehicle inspection. If you could also have automated vehicle
Well,
repair.
and those are all an aid to the human, right? And we still have a ton of mechanics, as many mechanics as ever. The automated vehicle inspection is just helping them get additional reassurance that they've covered everything. And we still, we don't have robots fixing the vans yet. I'm sure that type of R&D is occurring somewhere, and I'll check and see if we have anything in the pipeline on that.
Well, again, fascinating presentation. Thank you. Appreciate you
Thank
being
you,
here.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Estes, you are absolutely correct. This is a very serious issue that we're confronting today when we talk about artificial intelligence. And so I have 3 questions. May I ask 3 questions, Madam Chair, with respect to Mr. Estes? Okay. So I have 3 questions in light of the report that you presented today, which was an excellent report, by the way. I want to say it's an excellent report. Number 1, you indicated very early on in your presentation that you have 750,000 robotic instruments that serve 75% of all your customer orders. Now, at one time, before there was AI, there were human beings doing that. Now, I noticed you said you have 22,000 jobs here in Kentucky today, but your 750,000 robotic instruments, what would that equate into job loss over the course of time with Amazon?
That's a great question. I've received that question before. I don't have a calculation that's been done, and it's a tough number for us to calculate because our company grew so much during that time that when we first opened the Campbellsville Fulfillment Center, for instance, there was a little bit of AI being used. The Campbellsville Fulfillment Center's workforce has grown over the years, and it's because customer demand has grown. So we do get that question. I regret that I don't have a great answer for it, but I'll give you an analogy that I've heard that I think is pretty good, that I'm totally ripping off from somebody else. But every time there's a technological revolution of some kind, there is a fear that jobs are going to be lost. But over time, what history has proven time and time again is more jobs, less unemployment, more fulfilling jobs, right? So that's been our experience. As we've added robots, we've added job categories, we've expanded what we can do as a company. But I have asked that same question as well. I've never been able to get an answer that we're totally comfortable with, but it's a valid question, and I think I would just look to history on that, Senator, more than our individual company. There was a great story. I was at a conference, some of y'all were at it this summer. There used to be a large workforce of people across the world that would light a street lamp for a living. It used to be a huge number of people who would deliver milk, right? And when gas-powered lamps and light bulbs were invented, there was a panic at the time. What's going to happen to the guy who lights the street lamps? There's a ton of them. What's going to happen to the person who brings me my milk? And, they got better jobs, they got different jobs, they got new skills, and that's kind of been our experience as a company. So I will ask again if there's a way to pinpoint a number, because I think it is a good illustrative question. I see the intent of the question, and I can get back to you on that.
My second question is this. You highlighted Vapor, Vision-Assisted Package Retrieval. And as has already been said, that was a very fascinating use of technology. What we've seen here in Kentucky over the last 3 years is a movement toward autonomous vehicles. We know that's coming too, just like AI is here. It's not coming, AI is here. Do you foresee in the near future Amazon moving to autonomous vehicles, where rather than having an individual drive the car, you basically have a robot there, and it'll drive to a customer location, my house. The robot will get out, use Vapor to highlight the package, deliver it to my house, drop it at my front door like Amazon does, go back, and drive away again. Is that coming with respect to Amazon, the use of autonomous vehicles?
So Amazon always likes to be on the cutting edge of every technology. That particular application is not something that you'll see in the near future in Kentucky. The most active initiative at Amazon related to autonomous vehicles was our acquisition of a company called Zoox. And Zoox is very much a transit oriented autonomous vehicle company. So it is seeking to use autonomous vehicles in a taxi type fashion. But as far as autonomous vehicles for deliveries, I'm not familiar with any immediate plans on that.
Okay. And my third and final question, I'll just get right to it, is the use of autonomous flights. You know, we already have flights now that people can take without the use of a pilot. Mm-hmm. Do you foresee that in Amazon's future?
For cargo jets, don't think so. We are using drone delivery. So a drone is an autonomous aircraft.
That's right.
Yeah, drone delivery via Amazon is active in 2 markets right now. It's still, I would say, in the testing phase, but you will see drone delivery roll out in other markets in the future. So yes, on that question, that's in active use right now, for drones only, not for planes.
Okay, Madam Chair, that exhausts all my questions.
Thank you. Senator Smith.
Yes, I appreciate the presentation. There was a Popular Science magazine that still comes out for those of us that are still geeky enough to look for it. But in 1950, it came out with the cover of it. It was a gentleman in a hammock. You may have seen it in the background. The robotic apparatus was cutting the yard, and the headline was something of the fact that in 50 years from now, you know, this will be your day. You'll be in a hammock, and there'll be all these robots doing it. It'll be a new world. And there was a concern about job loss. But I think, in fact, in 1955, there were 4 people employed for basically every one of these machines. That they found out that yes, they could do it, but there was a lot of work that went behind it. And as you fast forward now, there's a question about meeting the demands or getting the education for it. And you're seeing the traditional college classes where you go and take 2 years, get your associates and bachelors and all that, and then get out and look for a job, or you can specifically come and work for a particular machine, which we've seen happen in the crypto and Bitcoin world, where people get certified in an Antminer and then get out and make $150,000 a year because they can repair these machines, and that's what they're good at. And I think that's what happens with this tech here, is that you'll have a lot of people that will go to specific trainings like what they have in Virginia, and for a minimal amount of money be able to get specifically trained to work on the different machines that are at Amazon, and it won't be the traditional college model that we've seen. And I think that'll be interesting to see in AP classes, to where you can start offering young people a chance to come and possibly even work for Amazon in a particular training environment. So when they graduate, they have 2 pathways. They can take traditional education, or they can come straight on and start working for you, because the demand for these machines when they're down causes you a lot of money. And so that was just one thing I wanted to point out, that it's going to create a different element for education, and something we've not been familiar with seeing, where we're used to seeing semesters and quarters and stuff, and this is going to be something that will be taken in much less period of time and more specialized, but the pay will be very high. And I wanted to see if you'd comment to that.
Sure, those jobs that have a credential requirement or a particular skill requirement pay better, for sure. I turned this fun video back on when you were speaking, because it hit on exactly what you were discussing relative to the hammock image, right? Every now and again, you'll see everything stop on this floor. And one of our robotic specialists will walk out on the floor, and they have a special vest on that ensures nothing gets turned back on in their proximity. And they'll go help one of these things when they need help, right? And they had to get a specific credential to go do that. They might be able to fix it on the floor. They might have to remove it from the floor. But there are dozens of those types of professionals who have gotten a specific credential to help manage all that, right? So it's the exact same as the analogy that you just offered. And you know, I couldn't help but think of this Sunday. I was making fun of my mother-in-law, which we do every Sunday in our family, because she has one of these autonomous mowers, right? And you set up a wire underneath your yard, and it'll mow within there. She bought it solely to mow underneath the grandkids' trampoline, because she doesn't like when the grass grows under the trampoline. It's the funniest thing. But that 1950s science, you know, that article's come true, right? And sometimes it takes a decade, sometimes it takes 5 or 6 decades. So Thank you for the question. Yep.
Just to follow up, if I may, Madam Chairman, do you all offer currently, do you have training programs available for the different types of machines and technology? And of course, that creates the chip demand where you may have them, but we're having difficulty in the U.S. of getting chips outside of China, which causes us a problem. So
Yes,
chip issue and NVIDIA, I guess you guys are having a problem with that currently.
So, yes, we offer a comprehensive suite of in-house upskilling opportunities. We're unique, and our scale allows us to do that. You can get almost any skill you need through in-house Amazon training, or you can use our career choice program, and we will pay for your higher education at a participating institution, of which we have many in Kentucky. Chip shortage is a real deal. Amazon manufactures millions of devices. We have Alexas and clocks and radios, and we need chips just like anybody who manufactures consumer technology. And in Kentucky and several other states, I know there's been conversations ongoing about how to harness state and federal resources to increase chip manufacturing capabilities in this country. We're an American company. We like to get as much of our component parts from America as we can, and we support all those initiatives to get more chips in the U.S.
And just my last follow-up, Kentucky's ripe to participate in that particular aspect of it for the chips. But I want your thoughts on AI washing, and for those following, you've got that just walk out concept, and which is fantastic. If you've got your arms full and you've got kids, it's just great to get what you want to and walk out the door. But I think that was maybe oversold to some degree for you to comment, and that the reports are saying, which I think have maybe possibly been challenged, that there were thousands of people in India that were having to go back through and manually check those. So it was great as far as marketing, but I think maybe there was some sort of overpromise, underdeliver. But can you speak to AI washing and what that really is?
So Just Walk Out technology was developed for our Whole Foods Market locations and our Amazon Fresh locations. We've got a Whole Foods, in Lexington. We don't have any Amazon Fresh locations in Kentucky. We have made some changes to Just Walk Out's use in Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods Market. It's a new technology. We're working to perfect it. Customers do love it. I used it in an airport a couple days ago. I used Amazon One, which you scan your palm. It's connected to your Prime account. I went in, and I think I got a smoothie at a airport market. Walked straight out. So that technology's still being perfected. AI washing, okay.
For, I guess, whitewashing away some of the other issues that are there. I mean, I think it's great that it employed that many other people to kind of go through and manually check it. I mean, obviously that's not bad to have the jobs, but I think it's sort of a maybe not just Amazon but Microsoft, some of these other companies, for either stock value reasons, maybe over-promising a little bit, and then still having some of these troubles here. And just wanted you to speak to
Sure.
to that.
So we like to use a phrase at Amazon called two-way doors or one-way doors. A lot of technology is a two-way door. You can go back in if you need to. If it's a one-way door, you make a decision and you can't change it, right? When you're an innovative company like Amazon is, you try to take as many two-way doors as you can. And whether that was oversold or undersold, I really couldn't speak to, but I do know we're always trying to optimize our products for the customer experience, and we're taking their feedback, and things do take time to perfect, absolutely.
Apologize for so many questions.
That's right. Representative Miles.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, John, for presenting today. Thank you for your company's footprint in Kentucky. I know there's many people that are very happy that they're here. Otherwise, we wouldn't see so many trucks delivering and all those good things. But how do we compare with other states as far as taxes or accessibility for using programs, different things like that? How do we compare? In essence, are we a business-friendly state to Amazon, or could we be doing something better?
Yeah, Kentucky's a wonderful state for Amazon. Again, we've been here longer than almost any other state. Your status as a longtime logistics hub is certainly appealing to us, and you have some very pro-logistics policy on the books that some other states don't have, and your tax environment is competitive. You've always been a great state for us, but we're kind of a unique company to ask that question of, because we have to go where our customers are, regardless of the policy environment in some cases. But that doesn't mean we don't pay attention to it. And again, I would just tell you, we've been here longer than almost any other state. Our presence here is larger relative to other similarly sized states, so we have more investments here than we have in states with about the same population, same number of customers. A lot of that's because you are a logistics hub. So yeah, it's an awesome state for us, and pleasure to do all kinds of business in Kentucky, not just in transportation and operations, but we have some cloud computing folks here, and we have some other business units that operate in Kentucky outside of logistics, and it's a great place to do business.
Thank you, and I look forward to visiting at some
Yes,
point. Thank
absolutely.
you for that invitation
Absolutely.
to us.
It's a fun tour.
Look forward to visiting. Thank you.
I think the 75-64 cross doesn't hurt us
Nope.
in that space. Co-Chair Bray.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So glad you all came to talk about logistics specifically within Amazon. But the fact of the matter is Amazon is a gigantic corporation that has a lot of different divisions, right? Amazon Prime Entertainment, AWS, which you talked about earlier, and then the retail side of things. But specifically on logistics, and kind of echoing what Representative Miles said before, a lot of people, when they think about Kentucky, they think about bourbon and horse racing and college basketball. But the fact of the matter is we're a logistics hub. We've got 3 of the top 10 busiest cargo airports in the country, in Kentucky. I was fascinated on the routing for the vehicles, and we've had a lot of attention paid specifically within government on efficiencies, and we've had kind of when we look at, let's say, the Jefferson County Public School System and their inability to effectively transport students. And then we see that in the private sector, you all kind of have this down to a science to where you're changing your routes every day. And then you all are constantly developing this technology. Is something like your all's route software, is that available to the public, or could the state of Kentucky contract for a service similar to that? Or
Thank you for the question, Co-Chair. Here's the fun thing about Amazon. A lot of what we build for ourselves, we can tailor for other entities, and that really is the success story of Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services built a cloud computing and data center operation for Amazon.com. That was its first customer. We built it for ourselves internally. We realized other businesses had a need. And again, there are hundreds of thousands of AWS customers now. I'm confident that transportation logistics, route optimization are offerings that AWS provides private and public sector clients. We do some work with your transportation cabinet in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So if that's a conversation you're interested in facilitating, I'd be happy to connect you with our AWS folks who work on transportation, cloud computing operations, and that would include our route optimization technology. I don't know specifically if that exact piece of software goes external or not, but I know that the capability of route optimization is part of the service catalog that AWS offers to its public and private sector clients.
all right, thank you. I mean, because when I'm looking at the budget of the state, 38% of our budget goes towards education, and we're trying to find efficiencies everywhere. And then recently, we funded 100% of transportation, but there has to be some efficiencies to be found within transportation routing because we've got 120 different counties.
Yeah.
And, I can't imagine that we're super efficient in how some of these routes work all across the state. And it's just a fascinating prospect that we've got this private sector company here within Kentucky already operating, and they've got this one section down to a science, and it seems like there's the availability for partnership and some efficiencies for the taxpayer.
Well, that's
and,
been
and
the
safety.
and that's been the Amazon model. If there's something that Amazon develops that's useful internally, there's probably an external use for it as well. But I will remind you that a big reason route optimization is so challenging for us is we have a different route every day. Public transit, school buses, probably a little less flexibility on the routes that they take. But that doesn't mean that, smarter heads could get in a room and find out a better way to do something.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Round 2B, a little quickly, if you don't mind. Senator Williams.
Really quick question. I want to make a comment. We're focused on the jobs, the delivery, everything behind the scenes. 22,000 people, but we have 4.5 million people in Kentucky. And I wonder if you know what percentage of those actually are one of your customers that take a delivery of that, because
how many
it's
of
the advantage to them
Yeah.
that we're also concerned about.
Let's survey the task force. Who's an Amazon Prime customer? I don't have the number, but I think we did a scientific survey just now. I don't know, Senator, but we have an outsized number of employees in Kentucky compared to other similarly sized states, in part because of logistics, in part because of customer demand. I am excited that Kentucky is one of the states that will start seeing more last mile delivery stations in rural areas. So Amazon Prime is 1 to 2 day delivery via a membership model, announced about 19 years ago. It's now the standard expectation in most urban areas, but that 1 to 2 day delivery is not always possible in a rural area. There are initiatives underway at Amazon to try to change that. So we have customers all over Kentucky, all over every state. The question is just what kind of experience and speed do they get from Amazon? And I'm excited that Kentucky will be one of those states that gets that Prime 1 2 day delivery. I think it'll be available across almost the whole state in the very near future.
Thank you very much. And I expect your customers are closer to 4.5 million than 2 million, but millions will say at prices that I'm almost sometimes embarrassed to order from.
I'm glad you
the
do.
delivery costs are so early.
Thank you for your business.
So low.
Senator Smith.
Yes, I'll be quick, but this is to follow up on Representative Miles' question. When you look at the I guess the factors of where you guys locate, power is the biggest thing with you guys, and even with AI cards, because of the profitability and the graphics, how that's taken off. Is that the power rate in Kentucky? Of course, it's regional. Does that hinder you when you guys are looking at some places? Because in Eastern Kentucky, we're battling it down there, and we'd love to have one of the centers. But I wonder if the cost for kiloweight and our region is prohibitive for you all to look at that, because I noticed where you're staying and it's not down there. So would you speak to the power rate as Kentucky competes with other states? Like, is ours higher, lower, and how big of a factor that is for you all?
I haven't heard any concerns expressed about rates in Kentucky. We don't have a data center in Kentucky. I will check with the data center team, and I'm sure they'd be happy to share with you their perspective on the region, the country, the world on power rates. But you did just see we did a data center in Mississippi. We did a data center in Indiana. Those are multi-billion-dollar investments, and this committee is well aware that the demand for power is increasing dramatically because of artificial intelligence. So I'd love to connect you with some of the experts to discuss that. It's a good question. It's not one I should have prepared to answer that. I apologize, but I know that we'll have an opinion on it, but I haven't heard any concerns expressed, but I'll connect you with somebody.
Madam Chairman, could we just give it to the whole committee if you guys get some data, just share it with all of us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Estes, for your presentation, and certainly appreciate Amazon's partnership with Kentucky, not just as an employer, but as an innovator too. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Task Force.
All right, our final presentation of the day is for Mr. Cecil. If you'll come join us at the podium here, introduce yourself for the record, and you're going to talk a little bit about, I believe, social work as the chair of the Social Work Board.
Oop, there we go. Hank Cecil, Chair of the Kentucky Board of Social Work. Very happy and thank you for the invitation to be here today. I'll try to be brief. Just to let you know that social work is impacted by AI just like everybody else. And just to share a little bit about it, I was going to do an AI presentation, let the AI do it, because I could create the avatar, but I decided to be here myself. You can get an avatar to do either your Zoom meetings for you now, just all those kind of things, presentations, all those kind of things now are so new, and social workers are having to adjust to those changes. It's quite a challenge. And I did take the previous meetings and created a podcast for you if you care to listen to it at later date. Anyway, I social worker, but also say I'm a technologist. And I trace that back to my dad in a 4-H group when he taught me how to build a radio. So I've been interested in technology for all my life. My dad worked for GE, so I learned that, built my first computer in 1980, and became more interested in people because they are far more interesting than machines. So I get into social work. Anyway, but I didn't lose my tech stuff. When I worked at Fort Rivers, the Community Mental Health Center, people knew me as the geek guy who, whenever they didn't get a good answer from IT, they would come and ask me. So I had a bit of a reputation, and after a while, I got promoted to be in charge of the IT department, but really with the big project of changing everybody over to an electronic medical record. Okay, way back in years ago. Anyway, in that process, there was this part of the medical record that said clinical decision making. And I'm going, what? So I knew I had to go back and study. So I went to Northern Kentucky University in information and in informatics for data, et cetera, and learned about machine learning, data mining, which was like, whoa, whole new world, which led me to go to Murray State in information technology, where I came in more in learning about machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I built my first chatbot in 2017. That was a kind of a transition year for generative AI. And one of the slides I use, I brought this here for you, that I try when I'm trying to talk with and educate social workers about tech, how this works. The 2 stars there, all the hype is around this, but it is very important. But all of that you see, the computer vision, all of that. If anybody's here had an X-ray or an MRI recently, you probably had it read by an AI, because it's very much into radiology and also cardiology. But in our world, its influences documentation and the emergency and the EHRs, electronic medical records. So social workers are now finding themselves with a challenge of an ambient voice, they call it. Basically, it's recording what's going on and then gives them suggestions about even diagnosis and does their documentation. Whole new world. I'm used to the handwritten. So it's a change. But again, there's others who are not, but there's this ChatGPT thing that's actually not too bad when it comes to doing actually diagnosis, which is kind of surprising and a little scary because it's kind of in public domain. When I was in class, went on into cybersecurity, which is a whole other issue. But anyway, it was the professors, I go, when is this going to be let loose on the public? Well, the prediction was off about a couple of years. And when it hit back in November of 22, it's like when I go, I'm going to go try it because I got to know what it's doing. And it was kind of yucky then, but it's gotten a whole lot better. And it's really impacting work. So that the challenges that we see is that as a board is that some people don't have the literacy, they need to be educated. And we see that across the board in lots of other professions. AI literacy just isn't there. They're not sure how it's working. And, from a completely geek point of view, it's just the generative AI has taken our language, and created a math kind of thing and then creates it. So is it really copyright? Or is it plagiarism? Is it, all those kind of things, which is, y'all guys, it's the legal thing that you all have to figure out on this to help us, guide us. But as a board, we're looking at, we're trying to talk about the ethical principles of privacy, data. And the new one that I'd like for y'all to consider is neural data. The EEGs, the data can now be read by brain computer interfaces, which is good for prosthesis, so you can think and move the mouse. But again, it's data, and once it's out there, who protects it and how that's done. So that's a whole nother challenge. So that growth in how impact. I mean, I've been around. I saw computers come into the community mental health centers and electronic records and telehealth and now AI. So it's a really big challenge. So we're looking at trying to coordinate with how the statutes are written and trying to do regulations to guide our professionals, because some of them just don't know. They're still needing that education, so we're trying to get that piece out there. We still see that literacy that's needed. We also want to address shadow IT and some other issues, but that whole conversational piece that Attorney General talked about is like, I was going to do it for you because I can talk to ChatGPT on my phone or Gemini or everything on my phone, is the tragedy that happened actually back in February, where 14-year-old shot himself because he was conversing with a created character on what's called character AI. I was about a month ago, I was with the school social workers, and I asked them in Kentucky, had anybody run into this? And the students using it, and I got a no, and I'm going, thank God, because I've run into this a few years ago. If you create stuff on the internet where somebody can create their own boyfriend, girlfriend, what do you think they're going to do? You can create a replica of your deceased loved one if you want, or you could talk to Einstein. I mean, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West, and I'm glad we're trying to corral the horses now, because that's what we need to do, because it's pretty bad. It can get really bad because the conversational AIs are great. They can help with, making appointments at the community mental health center. There's lots of things it can do. There's coding that it can do. There's the data analysis I used to have to use Excel for. I could do in 2 minutes on the AI. It just has a lot of power and ability and good things for repetitive tasks. The robotics that Mr. Estes talked about is really, really nice. But I'm really interested in the robot's going to help me stay out of the nursing home. I'm going to buy that one probably. But there's a lot of good things, but boy, there's that balance, because these places, and I was like character AI for a couple of things. That's where the 14-year-old created his, I think it was a Lord of the Thrones, the Game of Thrones a character. But anyway, there's one on there called therapist, and there's one on there called psychologist. I want that person to identify themselves. If they're going to give out advice like they do, I want them to be licensed and identify themselves, and they won't. These AIs won't. These two places won't. Therapist says they're an LPCC licensed in some state on the eastern coast. Well, I don't know. It could be in Philippines. I don't know. I can't track it down. I could if I use some of my hacking skills, but I don't want to go there. But again, it's like those are the kind of things that there's things out there that are being created and let sort of loose on the world without any vetting or whatever. So the only way I know is kind of like letting our professionals know, don't find out if you're, especially it's hitting vulnerable people, younger ones, and actually hitting elderly. It can be good things in a sense of it might be kind of like a companion. They're called AI companions. And that's where I want to caution y'all when you use language. When they use the word companion, it scares me a bit. When you say a tool, I think of a hammer. Well, I can't talk to the hammer. But a companion, is that a friend? Is that something? Is it? Because they can create AIs to have a relationship with. There's one instance I know of where there was actually a couple. The one person had an AI, and the other person thought they were having an affair, and they did, and they divorced over it. And it was like, we're in a whole new world. And dating apps, you can create your avatar and have my avatar talk to your avatar to arrange the first date. Well, that's a whole different world for me. I wouldn't have done that. But anyway, but that's coming. I suspect in 5 years that might be the standard. Anyway, it's just a whole new world for us. So we are trying to adjust, and we're looking at how you all write this up to help us guide our profession, and we know it's impacting a lot of other professions out there. So we appreciate your time in doing this. It's really, I know it's a lot you've heard and everything, but it really is necessary for our state, and I really am glad. I look at things like AI tutors, some of the research from Harvard and Stanford showing that AI tutors in classrooms can help with the teacher shortage and help below average students come up to average. I could see, and my colleagues, I scare them to death when I say this, I can see AI who are help tutors to help our social workers learn quicker and better than I did in school. Going back to Senator Smith's thing about the change, and that actually a way that there's those helping apps that are out there that a person can get help with the mental health shortage of people in Kentucky, because if done properly they could be a frontline help or a maintenance line after treatment, so that it reduces the cost. They're available all the time. If we could do that, I would want it done with making sure there are some good apps actually, Wobot and a few others that are really good that could be done that way if we could work with that. And I think of Senator Meredith, one of y'all, I have an issue with pre-authorizations as well. I think he could do away with that, because I work for the Community Mental Health Center, also work for WellCare, and I know why it's there, but at the same time, it slows down care, whereas I know they need to make sure the care was done properly, and I was in quality assurance, so the AI can help them audit the takes and everything quicker, rather than cutting down on the front end, making sure you stop the fraud when it happens, because they still have to do that. So you can, anyway, just some thoughts for you. And I appreciate your time. Thank you. And I'll try to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughts, and I appreciate you trying to be innovative in a very difficult field. Social workers do a phenomenal job, but they are overworked, overloaded, if you will. And I know that there's maybe some administrative burden that AI can really help streamline some of those things, so they can do a better job actually assisting people which is,
rather than doing paperwork.
That's right, which is a good thing. So one of the questions that I have, I'm just curious as a board chair, are you looking in the field of social work, do you think it's best for your board to come up with kind of guidelines and uses for how Kentucky social workers adapt, or are you looking for maybe the General Assembly to partner in that with you, or is that a both and? Or
both and. From our view, it's a both and.
Okay.
We don't think we got all the answers. It's a both and. It's working together with all groups, even with people that don't understand. It's like you got to have a level of understanding and then work it out. I think we can work it out.
Agreed. Co-Chair Bray?
Thank you. That fascinating, and you've kind of scared me to death in a way, because
sorry,
I've spent a lot of time trying to study AI and learn about it, but then I haven't come across these therapy apps you're talking about.
Yeah, those are scary.
Can you just, for my own information, can you, I guess, give us a couple examples? I know you had mentioned it, and then talk about the licensing, because are they portraying a therapist?
Yes, they are. The psychologist and the therapist, that's the character on, you go to character.ai, set up an account, and ask for a therapist. And the therapist app, their character will come up, and you can talk to it, ask it any kind of questions. Same with psychologist.
Yeah, so, and these characters don't have to disclose that, which, I guess if you're going to character.ai, you're talking to an AI.
But that's what happened to the 14-year-old. After a while, they forget they're talking to an AI. And the AI doesn't remind them periodically you're talking to an AI. ChatGPT does, and they won't. ChatGPT and Gemini and some of those others won't take those questions. They will shut them down. So it won't. They used to when they first started out, but they're better at, and that's the programming behind it. I can create the character on Character AI. I give it the instructions that I want the public to see. There's no guardrails that tell me that I have to tell anybody anything. So you create it the way I want to create it. I've created some. I just don't let them loose on the public because I don't, I've played with it enough to know how to do it. So I know how to do it. And I know how easy it is for somebody, even without any technical background, to do it. But they don't think of the guardrails. They're just, doing it.
I mean, I'm somebody that's used WebMD before, but obviously when I'm interfacing with that, it's listing, possible things. It's not pretending to be a doctor. Right. So it is kind of worrisome that there may be applications or facets of technology that are being used to kind of represent a licensed therapist or if you can't tell the difference, and that's kind of scary. Right.
And as soon as it becomes more conversational, it's just like human beings, we just are natural. It's like Mr. S.'s presentation. We name things. That's just what we do. We name our pets. We just name things. People name their AI, and then they talk to it as it's, and the second, I was surprised it was only the second most active thing was the erotic relationships. The second, kind of surprised. I thought it would be number one, but it's that because and some of them have shut it down, but not all of them have. So you could create an AI that way, or character for yourself to be you can have, and you can, abuse your character, curse at it, do whatever you want to with it.
So, last question. So, are there other apps, or is it just this character.ai?
That's just one.
There's multiple.
There's multiple. The character AI, I pick on that because it's most popular among the adolescents.
Okay.
Replica is more popular in the middle age bracket. That's the highest group.
And that's called Replica?
It's called Replica. It started in 2017, basically to the lady who started it she had a close friend, and they started the company. I forget the name of the original company, but anyway, and he got killed in a car accident. So she took his emails and his text messaging and fed it through their AI and created him.
I have seen that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Senator Smith.
Yes, and I'll be brief. We actually had a bill to do this last year to try to identify this to help it out. In particular, group we were looking for was we had a group of high school students that came in here, and they were telling us, some of the young girls, that they really didn't know who they were interacting with. And our bill was really simple. It just basically said, if you're a robot or you're one of these entities, you have to identify yourself as such. And so it was really narrow because we wanted to look at, but it was one of the first in the nation that had been out there. And it got pretty far. I won't say where it died, but it had an interesting adversary. And I won't say it here, but I'll tell you in private. But it was really unusual, the particular group that took issue with it, to want to fight it. And I just thought that was really kind of surprising to me. I think anybody would want to know, with a child or grandson or granddaughter or anybody, if you're online, especially after what happened to the individual that was encouraged to kill themselves, that you would want to know who you're talking to. But it is not always that clear here. But we did, one of the first states to lead the way on this, and had a lot of support from a lot of members that had voted for it, but it did not get across the finish line.
Yeah, I followed that. I was hoping it would get across.
Really,
I was kind of surprised as
hopefully
you were.
Maybe this year we can
anyway,
get it through, and more members are more aware of it. But I was really surprised at how many people that didn't fully understand what happened, but I do truly appreciate what you're saying, and I think it's a cautionary tale that Kentucky can lead on.
Right, and the tragedy that happened in Florida, I suspect the only reply we know about is because the mother has filed a lawsuit. I suspect it's already happened elsewhere. It just didn't make the news. And because I've seen it out there too much, and I've been telling people it's out there, check if you're doing it with kids, make sure you ask that question so that you know and that you talk to the parents about it, because it's dangerous in certain instances. Not in all. It can be a help in some, but it's just I just don't. 14-year-old shooting himself I just don't want somebody in Kentucky doing that anywhere, but especially not here.
Thank you, Senator Meredith.
Thank you. Certainly fascinating subject and kind of alarming as well. I read an article just yesterday about one of the largest services in the transcription field. The AI listens to the physician, also listens to the patient, and that produces the note. The doctor doesn't produce the note, the AI does. And what they found out, that this largest service in the United States, that 40% of the notes had artificial intelligent hallucinations
errors
in them.
And that's what I want to tell our professionals is you got to check it. It's not perfect.
Well, what's really more alarming is the question is, once that service produces that note, who owns that data? Is that a HIPAA violation? Unless you're informing the patient that your data is going to be within this huge database. I think it is a violation with true intent of HIPAA, but I don't know how you control this.
I don't either. I wish I knew. FDA just came out with their latest guidance on healthcare and stuff, and that's what this diagram is. I like it. They're trying to walk that fine line that you are between not stopping innovation but protecting the harm. It's not easy.
Well, you mentioned earlier that someday that you'd look for a robot to maybe help keep you out of a nursing home. We've heard some pretty dark things today, particularly from Senator Schroeder. But the potential exists that if a treatment plan is being developed based on a lot of different criteria, you could reach an age where AI would suggest no further treatment needed.
Yes.
But you could have treatment, but because actuarially you're beyond that threshold.
Right there with you. Right there with you. Right there with you.
All right.
Right there with you. It's kind of like, when Mr. Esser was talking about the difference between scripted robots and the deep learning ones, that's where kind of the character AI is doing the same thing. It's learning from what the person is talking to them about and then generating. That's a whole different level of interaction with technology that I used to, have had to change my view of technology because it's no longer a little silicon wafer in the computer. It's, wait a minute, it can change the psyche of the person who's interacting with it. And wow, I'm thinking about some of the people with, vulnerable people with, children especially, or elderly, or it's like, whoa, or mental illness or something. It's a whole new level. It's kind of like when telehealth came in. My first thing was, I wanted to make sure that my first patient with the doctor on the screen, the psychiatrist on the screen, wasn't a person with schizophrenia. Well, guess what? That was the first person. So I have to talk to the patient about this person is real, it's not your TV talking to you, dealing with. So it's just all those kind of things that I go, I don't know how to solve it. That's why I said we have to work together to figure out how to do this. I want the good part of it, but I want to make sure there's some guardrails to there. It goes back to, if I put a therapist online, I should say who I am, where I'm licensed, and I'm responsible for what's in here. And this is a character on the AI, not your friend, because machines really don't understand emotions. They mimic really well, but they don't understand context. They don't understand us really. Now, those are the futurists who say, we're going to get to super, AI. Well, that's way down the road yet. I'm just trying to deal with the next year or two.
Well, it's particularly challenging within the medical field. We heard during our first or second meeting that there's like a 35% bias
Yeah.
in AI until you can identify that and remedy that, then that's going to be built into treatment plans as well. Could
Exactly. You got the bias in the data if you're not careful. You also got the bias in the algorithm itself that's functioning on top of it. So you got to work with both of those, and that's the developer who, when I was in class, often got asked. When I was at Murray State, I also often got to ask, because I knew when you introduce yourself in class, why is this old guy in class? Because all the rest of them were younger. And I'd say I'm a social worker, and they say, what's a social worker doing here? Because I'm going, we don't know this stuff, and I'm trying to learn it to try to help my colleagues with it. So it was that kind of thing. Is that we got it? There's got to be a way of the developers and the users and some ways of protecting everybody, because not everybody can have the same literacy level, but again, trying to raise it as much as we can for everybody, because that's the future. I mean, we can't stop it. It's like a tsunami.
Yeah, it's out of the bottle. So. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair. So it sounds like there's a lot of unknowns with AI. There's known unknowns and probably unknown unknowns. But bring it back to something that could be actionable in the near future. You're talking about minors a lot. Right. Is age verification, perhaps parental consent, the first steps we should be looking at? Do you have any other steps that we should be looking at in the near term?
Age verification has to be there, and it has to be a third-party age verification outside of the developer. In other words, they have to go through some other step to verify the age, because it's easy to lie to get,
Sure.
Federal law is 13. I don't know how you deal with that, but parental consent, anybody who is licensed shouldn't be doing this just to make money, because you can exploit people and manipulate things. So they need to identify themselves, And the neural data, kind of getting a definition of that. I didn't find that. It's probably in the statute somewhere, but getting that into the statute, because that's the next future of data for privacy, so that consent, to use a brain computer interface for like a prosthesis for somebody to for their legs and stuff like that, it's fine. It's just that how to protect that data so that it, with AI now, with electronic medical record, one of my projects was I could take a large amount of data, and with AI, I can pretty much de-identify and find out who the patient is. There's got to be some way to make sure that we need the data to do everything in research, but there needs to be making sure that it kind of goes a little bit beyond HIPAA. HIPAA was written a long time ago. It's a little bit broader than, and the way I understand it, the state can do something on its own with HIPAA. I don't know. You guys have to be the ones to take that up. But anyway, in other words, how we write that privacy stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Cecil. We certainly appreciate your service on the board.
Well, thank you. I enjoy being on the board, believe it or not.
I bet you do. And we definitely want to have a partnership with you as you all try to figure out how it applies in social work, and as we work together to protect those areas as well as the rest of the areas of the Commonwealth.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
All right, the next meeting, like I said, will be November 13th at 3 p.m. That's on Wednesday. It'll be our last meeting of the task. As a reminder, if you have recommendations or items you would like for the task force to consider, please send those to staff by Friday, November 1st. Thank you so much. The meeting's adjourned.